Hey guys and partners, welcome back to the Academy. This is June. We're just after the summer solstice. I'm Scott Armstrong, one of the managers of the Academy. And today we have a founding partner within the Academy, Canada Life. And representing Canada Life as somebody who's been a real supporter of helping players transition to life off the football field. We have Jarrett Konkle. And Jarrett, it's a big new title, right?
Yeah, long one.
Director of Talent and Acquisition and Licensing at Canada Life. Yes. Jarrett, great to have you on.
Oh, it's nice to be on. I appreciate it. It's a shame we can't be face to face. Hopefully soon, though. Fingers crossed. But no, I appreciate you having me on, and happy to chat to the opportunity and what's gone on and going on with Canada Life.
So, guys, just a little bit of backstory here is, Jarrett has been around for a while. And last year in 2020, when the pandemic was just sort of gripping us, Jarrett was still reaching out and letting us know what's going on. And he gave me a list of names of players recently, too, just so that if you want to know who's been attracted to Canada Life. And this is just a partial list. We've got Val St. Germain. I understand Jarrett is in sort of a management capacity there.
Yeah. I believe since our new change here back in April, he's become one of our financial planning consultants. Mm-hmm. So in his area of the greater Ottawa area, he'd be basically used as a consultant in certain situations with clientele to come in and really run through the full financial planning process when need be. I mean, some advisors will have their CFP designation and be able to do that on their own, but majority of them probably, especially earlier in their career, would not. And this would be a nice piece and complement to add to their businesses, as we have a lot of those sorts of resources, but he'd be one of them.
In addition to Val, we've got Bo Banner, Nicholas Dembski, Tyler Carpina, and Ronnie Pfeffer, who've all gone through and worked with Canada Life at various stages. So the reason we're mentioning this, guys, is that you can reach out to these guys and find out what's actually been going on. So why don't we start at the top, Jarrett? Canada Life, the opportunity. I'm thinking about the end of my football career. What is the opportunity at Canada Life?
For sure. I mean, through our interview process, there's a lot of different routes guys could go at the end of the day. But really what we want to sit and chat with them about is the financial advisor career, financial planner, depending on designations they may have at some point. And these changes that we made in April are phenomenal. Our offering has been brought up that much more as opposed to what it used to be. But we'll look and try to figure out, if this is the right kind of career and financial services, there's the route that these individuals want to take. Are they entrepreneurial and maybe starting up their own book of business where, we're going to support them. We're going to help get them the licenses that are required. We're going to actually pay them a salary for the first 6 months and possibly further on if need be, but definitely for those first 6 months where they're really, getting their legs underneath them. And bringing on an initial list of clientele? Or do we find, hey, you know what? Either maybe they've got some banking experience, maybe they've worked in their off seasons or during the university days at a bank, or have just maybe done some studying or really have good knowledge of financial services. If that's the case, we might put them into an already successful firm. The idea of succession planning, or even just growth within a firm. And maybe I should preface with a firm is anywhere from 2 to 30 or 40 or 50 people that run their own practice. Mm-hmm. But we'd look to maybe implement them in an opportunity like that if it fits. We've got boots on the ground all across the country who are doing what we would tend to call fact finds within these firms and digging, are they in their 50s and 60s and maybe looking to pass on their business? Are they, young and trying to just grow and bring on more associate advisors? So a lot of work to be done. The interview process is a very strong due diligence that we'll take candidates through. But at the end of the day, really looking for, is this the right kind of career for these individuals? And, why we've set up the partnership with this group. We love bringing athletes into the career. I myself come from a hockey background. And found a bit of a niche as to hiring, ex-athletes, maybe even current, where they're thinking about what they're going to do down the road, onto my own team. Different role now that I'm in, and I'm doing it on a bigger scale here. But that's really what we're looking to do with, the initial conversation, all right, where do we go from here? Maybe it's not the right fit. Maybe they go elsewhere, but that's really all we're looking to do is just have that initial chat, see if this is something that fits.
So if I put on the cleats of a player right now, I'm listening to this, I'm going, I haven't thought about a financial advisor. And so I heard you say the opportunity, boots on the ground across the country. Right. We're talking Canada specifically. There's no U.S. presence. Is that right?
Not within Canada Life, but we do have some partner companies that we do, I won't say have official partnerships with, but we've got great relationships with them. And it's, hey, this guy or girl's from this area. Do you guys have offices down there, sort of thing? And we've passed some folks on and passed down into the U.S. because I do know, the league obviously has both sides of the border.
Fair enough. And if I'm thinking too about revenue streams, you talked about a salary for 6 months or some kind of term like that. If I am average, not too low, not too high, and I'm thinking about income potential over the first 2-3 years, can you take me through that first, second, third year so that I could get a sense of, what the opportunity is from a financial perspective?
For sure. It's tough to give you a definitive, this is what it would be, for sure, as you're well aware of, and most people do tend to be. But, it really would depend on, obviously, the individual themselves, the network that they have, the ability to get out there and network and grow that. So it is tough to give a number. I mean, I've seen brand new advisors come into our old world, which was strictly commissioned, and start their book and make 6 figures in their first year. It's obviously not a guarantee, but that's one thing that I always found, and what gave me the conviction to have conversations with people about the career was we were not, and still are not, actually even more so, are not like a lot of the industry. A lot of the industry is, okay, interesting. You want to try this career out? And I say, try this career out. Let's try you out. Let's see where you go, because it's 100% commission. They're not putting much into this candidate. It costs them almost nothing to do it. They typically would say, go out and get your licenses that you require, and let's see if it works. That person may come in and make $0. I mean, theoretically in 4, 5, 6 months and say, I can't do this. Well, we were, and again, I'm speaking to our old world, but we would still pay for the licenses, and give them a little bit of what I would tend to call a training allowance early on. Mm-hmm. But what I'm getting at is we didn't hire as many people. We'd only allow our directors back then to hire 3 people a year, whereas somewhere else it may be 10, 15, 20 people a year. So the due diligence that we took somebody through was actually a lot stronger. And again, I go back to that word of saying I had conviction in the role that I had to actually say, hey, look, we're looking to bring the right people in. Mm-hmm. We weren't just trying anybody with a heartbeat to see if it would work. We were taking, 4, 5, 6 weeks, maybe longer, depending on the individual, to go through a thorough process, vet their network, see what they were like, run predictive indexes on them, do career profile assessments. Like, does this individual, does the industry suit the individual? Does the individual suit the industry? Is it the right time? And just really take that thorough look to make sure, to the best of our ability, we'd never bat 1,000 quite clearly, but to the best of our ability, make sure, okay, this is a solid fit. So looking at it now, I mean, again, you're going to get at least a salary. If you go the entrepreneurial route, you're going to get at least that salary of, I believe it's $3,000 a month for the first 6 months, commissions on top of that. So it's not like that's all you would make. And then as you come out of that first 6 months, you have the decision to stay on in what we would call a draw. So you can continue to get that $3,000 a month for the next, 18 months, so 2 full years. But at that point, it is what we call draw. So, we are taking away from commissions. At that point, it's not free dollars, as I'll say. But I mean, if you're doing okay, I tend to say you're making at least $60,000 in your second year, if not your first as well, because you're going to get that free dollars or salaried dollars. But again, with the background and what I assume would be the relationship skills of a lot of these players that would tend to come out, and if we've done our proper due diligence, which we definitely do, I would hope that most of these players or people that we turn into candidates would be making 6 figures by their third year as a minminimum.
Yeah, fair enough. And I see this as a long-term play too. Just, I told you too, I've been in the financial service industry for a while as well, not as dialed in as you are, but a thing of guys for a book of business is just business that often reoccurs for you. And it's maintenance of those accounts type of thing, but they're fairly predictable commissions. And so you're building up, your value of your book over time. And so there's a lot of legwork at the beginning. If I'm correct, Jarrett, you've got to get those initial connections, but down the road, I know a lot of guys who are making, mid six figures or low to mid six figures, and they're having a very good life, but there was a good amount of effort at the beginning. Can I ask you, just because you are the director of talent and acquisition, I just love that title. It sounds like a Google thing or something like that. What the players that you see, or the people, the candidates you see, if you had to give me, the top 3 or 4 traits, if I'm listening to this now and you're saying, hey, Scott, do you have this? What are things am I thinking about?
Yeah, great question. I think that one of the first ones that I tend to always say is just relationship skills, right? The ability to build and maintain a relationship. Because as you just touched on there, this is, yes, very heavily commissioned. And again, I always say it is an unlimited income potential because it's the truth. I won't get touching on it, but if you're in the right kind of market, you could literally have 1 or 2 clients and make a heck of a lot of money. But the idea of building and maintaining relationships is definitely one of the most paramount, because we do, like you mentioned, need to maintain that relationship with our clientele. We can't be transactional. We can't just, okay, we've oversold someone on what they should have and we made a sale and I can walk away with money in my pockets, because guess what? You're losing out on a heck of a lot more once they realize that you haven't done the right thing for that client. And then obviously the referral aspect of it too, right? That's huge in our industry, is referrals. But yeah, building and maintaining relationships is huge. The other one's probably, and I say this because it might not be for some, but the ability to get out of your comfort zone. For me, I tended to find myself to be a little bit of a shy individual when I first got into the career. But that definitely changed. Find it a lot more easy to reach out to somebody nowadays or to ask for that meeting. I think that really comes with the confidence that you'd get once you're in the career and you've learned products and processes and had proper coaching and teaching. But if somebody's able to get out of that comfort zone and, almost have that, not overly proud, willing to speak to just about anybody, that does go a long way. It's not necessary, but I do find for a quick start in the career, if I had an example of one guy I brought into the career. This guy could be riding on the subway or the GO train in the Toronto area or wherever else, and just he's got somebody's business card in a matter of 2 minutes. He had that charismatic approach with people and very genuine at the same time. So those would be the first one: building, maintaining relationships, and then, ability to get out of your comfort zone. And I said, some people, it's not uncomfortable, right? So that's why I say that one's got a bit of a twist to it. And then lastly is just an inner motivation, right? And again, that's why I often will go, if I'm going to start a search for somebody for this kind of career, is somebody with that competitive athletic background, right? The amount of discipline, work ethic, all that kind of stuff. I tend to bundle those together to really round out, what would be an amazing or incredible 3 attributes for somebody to have looking into this career, for sure.
That's pretty interesting. So now let's say I'm playing ball, and this is going to be my last season. I've never really thought about being a financial advisor, but I've listened to you, Jarrett, and I'm interested. What steps can I do to prepare to make myself more attractive from your recruiting perspective?
For sure. I think the first thing to do, and it may seem a bit counterintuitive because you might not be done playing, but it's start to have the conversations with us. The best thing you could do outside of that would be to start having conversations with individuals in your world, in your network, because it may not seem like it, but they can play an integral part of your career, especially early on, whether they become clients or not, or whether they're just advocates for you in your business, right? Mm-hmm. Having those conversations, warming people up to the idea that, hey, I might be getting into this kind of a career. I experienced the exact same thing when I was coming out of hockey. Mm-hmm. Start having those conversations with people. But to preface that, if somebody is getting in touch with us, having the conversations with us, we can really push them that way, and even start the interview process. I mean, I myself, when I looked at the career initially, had my first 2 interviews within Canada Life, or what at the time was Freedom 55 and then London Life, and then went and finished my MBA. I was actually halfway through my MBA, and I was home for Christmas, and through a mutual friend who was an advisor with Freedom 55, went and met with his director, got to know more about it, got interested, started thinking that way, went back, did 6 more months of my program, and then came back and then finished the interview process. So I've always been an advocate for come in as early as possible, whether you think you're 3 years away, 2 years away, 6 months, whatever it may be. It's always a great time. I mean, the earlier, the better, to learn more about it, learn what the processes look like, learn what you might find out or discover in the interviews. And the other thing is, some people will then say, okay, you know what? Well, maybe I'll get ahead of it and I'll go out and get licenses, or maybe just start doing some studying towards licenses, because that's part of our process and program. You don't have to go pay for those on your own. We will do that. But sometimes it's nice, and depending on how much somebody enjoys studying, they may want to get a head start on it, and we can get them the textbooks ahead of time. They can kind of study them at their own leisure, as they finish out their season or couple seasons or something like that. But again, always good to get in touch as early as possible to A, for themselves to learn, B, have conversations with people in their own world, and C, start thinking that way.
So can we put a third dimension on this label? We always hear financial advisor. And, I have a little bit of knowledge of what that means. I know you have a lot of knowledge on that, but just, tell me, what am I selling? You mentioned commission before. So if I really don't know what that means, can you give me a little context?
For sure. And most people tend to, and I know I did, when they think of the term financial advisor, financial planner, all they think about is the idea of investment, right? Finances, buying stock, whatever it may be. That's a portion of it for sure. And it can be a big one, depending on the advisor. Everybody's business, and what I mean by that is their book of business, who the clientele that they work with, will have a lot of different routes within our structure. Oftentimes in a bank environment, it is, they are an investment advisor, and that's all they're dealing with is a client's investment. And that's what I loved about our offering, is you had a lot of different revenue streams or routes for bringing in clientele. So obviously, naming them off, yes, investment is a big component there, and one of the biggest things most people will want to talk with you about. But also insurance, not so much your home and auto insurance, but the more general insurance, as people will call it. But your life insurance, your living benefits, critical illness and disability, health and dental plans, all that kind of stuff. The real risk mitigation part of a financial plan. So there's those two: investments, insurance, and also mortgages and credit. Again, a lot of people don't even realize that we do that. But London Life, who we are in essence, has been providing mortgage for over 140 years. I think it's almost 150 years now. So a lot of experience in that space. Again, a ton of resource as well if somebody doesn't have the knowledge prior. But these kind of three-pronged approach, the idea of comprehensive financial planning for clients. A, it's great for the client, right? They have that congruency. They're not going to their investment person and then their insurance person, and their investment person saying, "Yeah, you got to put more away in your investments," and the insurance saying, "Oh no, you should spend more on insurance." They really do. The client get the proper kind of plan put together based on their needs, because we have a fiduciary responsibility. We have to do what's right for our client. And then there's actually another arm of what we do, and that's group. What we call group, and that's group benefits, right? As well as group retirement savings plans. So this would be working with a business owner, or maybe a decision maker at a big organization, if somebody has that kind of relationship. So there really is a lot of different ways to build your business, build your practice. Myself personally, and I still do run my own book. It's very individual focused. I actually don't have any group business on there, but I know some advisors who are strictly group benefits and group retirement savings plans, because they have a lot of great relationships with business owners and things of that nature. They may do some individual stuff here and there, but that's kind of the main focus of their business. And then even further to that, some advisors will just strictly focus on individual insurance with clients, or just the investment side of things with individual clients. So again, we always say there's a ton of flexibility and autonomy in the career, which there are. But there's also, autonomy within your own book of business and kind of how you want to take that and who you like to work with, that kind of thing.
That's a really good explanation of what's going on. So I'm now interested in finding more. And let's say you and I have conversations over a period of months, if not a year or two, and I do become one of those candidates. What could I expect once we both green lighted? Yeah, this is an opportunity I want to go. What kind of training would one expect at Canada Life?
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, once we've taken someone through that due diligence, we both said, all right, yeah, this is something that's a good fit. We like you, you like us, let's move forward. What we then do is, we'd get them the textbooks, let them do a bit of their own self-study, and then we'd give them the opportunity to work with a tutor, in essence, and kind of give them a schedule. That we usually do a 30, 60, or 90-day schedule. The 30 is usually someone that's not working anywhere else and has lots of time in their day. 60, maybe someone's working part-time somewhere, maybe they're still playing. 90, they're doing a full-time job somewhere and really just have evenings and weekends kind of a thing to get through that sort of material. But based on what both sides tend to think is that right fit in terms of timeline, implement them in that kind of a study program with full-on schedule, do this chapter and these on this day. It's pretty detailed, but once a week, they'd have the ability to work with that tutor for an hour, maybe more if they need it, but it's a great opportunity to be able to ask, specific questions. Maybe they have trouble on this part of insurance or investments, whatever it is. But when I say get them the textbooks, that's to get both of the licenses that are required to write these exams. Okay. We set it all up. There's nothing on the candidates end that they need to do. And they write what's called their LLQP exam. So the Life License Qualification Program. That's for the life insurance and all that. And then there's also the IFIC, the IFIC. It's the Investment Funds in Canada course. This is allowing for them to work in mutual funds and things of that nature on the investment side. So, timeline wise, is it a 30, 60, 90-day plan for them? Moving out of that, they write and pass exams, which we have an extremely high pass rate on, which is phenomenal. Then we would enroll them in our own, what we've recently changed to the name of Accelerator Program. This is where they're going to learn all of our specific programs, products, processes, all that kind of stuff. The licenses is industry knowledge. And this is more, Canada Life knowledge, whether it be on the as well as some sales training as well, because obviously there's a sales component to the career for sure,
and the relational sales component. So we want to distinguish between those two, right?
Yes. Oh yeah, we stay away from that transactional side of things. I mean, that's what we ingrain in you if it's not already there, because again, the relationship aspect of this career is just, it's paramount. If you don't have that, it's not impossible, but it'll be a lot tougher test. That's for sure.
You mentioned something in your words there about doing this if they were working part-time. So is it conceivable, or can you envision if a player was still playing, is there a way to start this track, or do you really want them off the field full-time?
I mean, I'd say an ideal scenario, they're probably completely done. Now, with respect to going through that timeline of what I just spoke to, the licensing and all that, sure, like I said, they could be doing something else. And we have seen players, I actually think one of the, or maybe even a couple of the ones that we've recently brought on may still be looking to play this upcoming season, sort of a thing. It's really dependent on what we would call the director that was taking them through the process, right? Getting to know them enough. Do they have enough business that they could probably be doing early on where they're still, making a difference, helping people, but also, working at their other role. One of the biggest issues that there is with that is the actual MFDA. So the governing body on the investment side of things, that what we work with, because we have the fiduciary responsibility, they don't want somebody working 80 hours a week somewhere, but then also working for clients in their best interest. Because if I'm a client and I'm saying, hey, Jarrett, I want to make this trade, but I'm busy off doing something, that's not in their best interest, right? So usually it's an hours a month that they'll allow, because they have to, essentially sign off as we sponsor them to get their license. So there is some opportunity for that. I tend to say in an ideal world, once they're done and now on up and running their practice, they're not doing anything else. Other organizations, they'd probably allow them to do that. But again, they're not doing as much due diligence and really, working at that. We're really just looking for those that are going to be high end and be high producers and, extremely successful.
From a marketplace perspective, you mentioned earlier on about, there's timings of markets where, certain services are sought after. And, we've gone through an economic boom for the last many years, longer than a lot would have expected.
Yeah.
I guess the short stroke is, I've heard stats that, fewer than 5 or 10% of Canadians actually save enough to have a healthy and fulfilling, retirement. What's the marketplace like now if I was to come into it, a year or so from now after I've done my exams?
Yeah, honestly, I tend to find, and, I've only been in the industry since 2014, so I haven't been through everything that's gone over the last while, but I've been around a lot of advisors that have given examples and what's gone on. But I've always found from my own experience and from what others have told me, regardless of what's going on, obviously, if it's, if we're in a great long bull market and the economy's flourishing, it's a great time. People are excited. It's an easier time to make money in the markets, all that kind of stuff. But even in the downturns, and I did experience a small one back in, I want to say it was 2015, maybe 16, or it would have been 15. And actually an experienced advisor gave me this tip. was it's a great time to be out there looking for clientele, right? Oh my goodness, the world's ending, markets are crashing. It's a great time to reach out to those people that said, oh, you know what, I'm good, I've got another advisor, or you know what, contact me in 6, 7, 8 months to say, hey, how's your portfolio doing? Would you like somebody to take a look at it? Because they're probably quite worked up with what's gone on, right?
Yeah.
So it's always a great opportunity. And obviously you want to be keeping in touch with your own clients, but a big part about what we do and what we preach is to set the proper expectation with our clients, right? Like, markets aren't going to go up every single year. So if you're having those proper conversations, if you're reviewing with your clientele, I tend to say at least 6 months. Some people will say at least once a year, depending, I guess, on the size of your book of business. It's really that. It's all about setting that expectation. The easiest way for me to speak to the opportunity of how do you get clientele? How do you win people over? As some people will say, if anybody's ever a clientele of one of the bigger banks or something like that. And then I'm not knocking the big banks. I bank at one of them with my, checking and savings accounts. But when it comes to an individual and their investments, unless they're up in that 7-figure number, they probably don't have a private wealth manager, right? They've gone in and spoken to this person behind the desk and this person. We really do give that ability to have my own personal financial advisor. That's what we are. So there's, in my mind, there's always a good opportunity to be out there trying to grow and run your own practice. At the end of the day, it's going to be selling yourself, right? If you can sell yourself, and not just the company you work for. To take a quick step back, I do remember early on in my career speaking to someone that's saying, you know what, like, it wouldn't matter who it is you're working for. I mean, unless it was a known pyramid scheme or something like that. Yeah. It's not really the products, it's yourself. It's you being genuine in the relationship that we've had. So absolutely. I've always said, it's great to have the Canada Life behind you and the phenomenal products that we do have. But at the end of the day, it's the individual. So again, to get to your question, I've always found that there's going to be good time regardless of what's going on out there in the marketplace currently.
Fair enough then. So we've got to this far in the webcast, and I'm still interested. What next steps? Do they reach out and contact you, visit the Canada Life website? What would you suggest?
When it comes to individuals from the Players Academy, yeah, I'd say get in touch with me. I've got more than enough bandwidth and capacity to have those. If not, it's a full conversation, perhaps pass you on to one of the individuals on my team who have those conversations on a daily basis. Sometimes through the careers page and, at our own fault, I guess, but a lot of people from a lot of places across the world will, fire into the careers page. Sometimes they don't get the proper care, but knowing that we have this partnership, I'd like to have more of a white glove approach to that, and either speak to the individuals one-on-one with myself or one of the 3 or 4 individuals on my team that are specialized recruiters and, know exactly what they're talking about.
Fair enough. So guys, if you're listening to our spouses, partners, because we do offer services to both sides, please reach out to the Academy and Jarrett. Jarrett's information will be overlaid in this webcast, but reach out to both of us so that you've got 2 touch points there just to make sure that we get you on that right path. Jarrett, any just closing words on that? You've done a great job of painting a really intriguing career.
Well, I appreciate that. No, I mean, just other than the fact that, again, if you're interested or you think you might be interested based on either this conversation or something you heard, or you know someone that's in the career and they look like they live a pretty cushy life because of that flexibility and autonomy, reach out. Don't be afraid. We want to speak to you just as much as you want to speak to us. We want to find really good people. We do what we can on a daily basis to find them, but having partnerships like this is great because it shortens that timeline. It gets us in touch with people like yourselves that might be listening to this a lot quicker. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay. Jarrett, thanks so much for taking the time today.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
Take care.